All right, there's that. So now, guys, what we have is that we've got the instrument panel here for our G1000 in our Cessna 172 SP G1000. We have ForeFlight popping up in here. We've got that for no apparent reason. And then we also have, what do I have over here? Okay, what am I looking at? Which airport? Oh, the heck you say. So if we look over here at Kahului, by the way, I can never say that word enough. I just love that. So this is a Google Maps view of the airport, okay? I want you to look. I'm going to zoom in here just a skosh. Okay, now, let's look here. What is this? That is the position of the VOR. What kind of approach are we about to fly? A VOR approach. So do you think it's kind of important for us to know where that bad boy is on the field? Yes. Okay. So with this, we have the advantage now of Google Maps of almost every airport on the planet, so that we can actually, you know, as far as an airport diagram, which are always important, it's important stuff for us to kind of see and to know and to be able to glean useful information from, we can actually see what the doggone airport itself looks like. And there's no reason for us not to do that. We have the technology. We got this, right? Okay? So we know that if you drew a line right here, that VOR kind of splits the thresholds of 2.3 and 2.0, right? So if I'm flying into this sucker, coming in here from out here over the water, which it looks by, if I'm looking at that approach plate correctly, that we're actually going to do after our procedure turn, right? We're going to come back in, we're going to fly to this because it gives us the signal to this right here. Does it give us the signal to the airport? No, to the VOR. And so then at some point, I'm going to be looking at two different airports, two different runways right here. Which one do I want? The one on the left or the right?
2-0.
I want the one on the right, right? Right. Okay. So that's why I think that little piece right there is just so important. All right, there's that. Hang on here while I push buttons. Good Lord. Okay, who's going to be my button pusher today? Who wants to do that? Okay, come on up. Okay, we're going to have Miss Steph up here is button pusher extraordinaire. Okay, come on up here, have a seat. I want you to get where you can see as well. Here, you can have my coffee also, no sipping. Okay, so we've got this here, so here's what you do. So what you're seeing here, you're looking at this screen. This screen is what's pumping, is what kids at home are seeing right here, is on that screen right there. So we're going to go back and forth between ForeFlight, which is button number what?
4.
Excellent. ForeFlight with this, and then back to the main, which is 5.
Okay.
4 and 5. So every time you hear me say something about ForeFlight,
Oh, I clicked the wrong one.
okay, you see how careful you got to be? Okay, and then if I say main, you've got this. Well done, lass. All right, so there we are. So now, let's talk about this real quick. Take a look. Whip out that approach plate. So what am I looking at? What's first thing?
Date.
Is it current?
Yep.
Okay, so current, can I use it?
Yes.
Yes. All right, now, what do I look at? Right airport, right runway, that's right. What next?
The vortex and a
Ah, do you think we should probably do that right now? Yeah. I think so too. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to set this thing up to make sure we got it. I'm going to leave that right there. I'm taking this. Okay, there we go. All right, so now what I'm going to do, where's my, oh, I hope this keyboard works today. Please may this work today. I'm going to unpause this for just a second because, as I say, on this sim, if I don't unpause it periodically, it'll freeze, and that's not good. So here we are on the main. So now, I supposedly want to fly some form of a VOR approach, so I should probably use VORs, right? Yeah. Let me ask you this. How much GPS information is there on this approach plate? Okay?
Not a GPS.
Yeah, because there's nothing on there about that, right? Yep. So, right now, ground-based radio navigation. That's what we're after. So, here's what I want. If I'm using that as my primary means, I personally like to put that in nav 1. That tells me that's what I am after, is nav 1. Tell me what to load up here in nav 1.
115.1.
115.1. God, I love the way you guys talk. 115.1. And understand that it is far easier to do this in the actual airplane. Ah, okay, now, what do I have up here in my active side of my nav? OGG. Now, does that look familiar? Okay, all right. Now, is it active?
No.
How do I know that?
It's not green.
Okay, because right now, what am I using for navigation? I'm using GPS. I shouldn't do that, should I? Oh, let's do that. Okay? So now I'm here and I have this. This is lit up in green. So now I know it's green, it's good to go. Green is good to go. Got it? Good. See what I did there with the... All right. So this is what we have here. All right, now what do I need to do? How do I get from where that airplane is right there on ForeFlight? Well done, Steph. And you see where the airplane is right there? It's right there where you see McKenna. It's just northwest of Funky. So you can see where the airplane is. Now, what do I need to do? If I'm going to begin this approach, where do I go?
You need to initial approach. Where are you right now? Oh, just kidding.
Thank you, thank you,
That's my
thank you.
bad.
Thank you.
Because you're south. Where is that?
Okay, because I'm... Okay, now when you look up here, by the way, on ForeFlight, you see the blue airport dot right there? See the blue airport up there? And you see that white dot that's at the upper, kind of at about that 2 o'clock position in that blue dot? What does that represent? A VOR. Okay, so we know it's on the field and we know kind of where it is just by this airport diagram. So where do I want to take that airplane that's flashing at you right there? I want to take it to the white dot. How do I get to the white dot?
You change your OBS until the needle is sent.
Ah, okay, so Gavin is wise. Gavin says this. Okay, let's go to that station. Okay, well, let's do that. How do I know that that's going to happen? I change my course and watch what happens here. Is that the course adjust? Oh, look at this. Look at this, my children. What's happening to the CDI? Go to main, go to main, go to main. Thank you, dear. See how it's starting to align? Oh, look at that. Do you think that if I flew this right here, I would find that little white dot on that field?
You would, yeah.
I think maybe I would. Okay, so I've got my VOR loaded here. Okay, so I've got the station. Now I've got the channel, right? I'm going to fly this radial. Doesn't matter what radial it is. I'm just going to fly direct to the VOR. That's the instructions that I've been given. Let's pretend. Okay, so now I know where to get there. If we're still on main, correct here, Steph? Normally what will happen here as well is that anytime that you're using a VOR down here, you're going to have these little boxes that are going to appear just below to the left and the right of your HSI that give you bearing information for NAV1 and NAV2 for your VORs, and it will give you DME, so it'll give you distance on this. This is a shortcoming here of this program. It won't necessarily do it, because when we look even here and we look at the distance information here for this, I have to put the airport in, so we're going to go nearest, PHOG, direct to, enter, enter. Now we see distance information, 14.8. But remember, GPS distance finds the center of the airfield. Where's the VOR?
At the end of the runway.
It's at the northeast end of the airfield. Northeast, yes. No. Thank you. Okay. Goodness. So we know that there's a considerable distance between the center of the airfield and that VOR. So the distance that I'm seeing up here
Not the same.
is not the same as distance to the VOR. Just as long as you're aware of that, okay? And unfortunately, we don't get that here on this simulation, all right? So now we're going to plug in our approach, correct? So here's our procedure. Select an approach. Which approach do we want? Come on. Okay, now there's VOR DME 20, but there's also VOR 20. Which plate do you have right there?
VOR.
That's VOR 20, so that's the one that we want. Okay, do we want ATC flogging us around up there, or are we going to want to go direct to OGG? Sometimes vectors can be useful, but in this case, just to show what this looks like, we're going to choose OGG. So we're going to go to the VOR, and we're going to fly the procedure turn to come back in and land. So that's what we're going to do. So in order to do that, we need to go to the VOR, correct? So here we go.
So because this is the only dark black line over here, this is the only thing that the required approach. From when you're coming from here, you can really come from any direction to get to the VOR?
You can come from any direction to fly this approach.
Okay.
And that's what it's showing you. As long as you first go over OGG, you can fly that back out, fly the thing, make it work.
Okay.
Okay? All right, so now we've got this dialed in. Let's activate it. We're going to activate it so that we can see it on our pretty little map, even though what we're seeing here is going to be an outline. I've got to come up, see this thing? Oh, this is just really about to upset me. I should. I need a dedicated mouse set definitely for these things because I can't get this thing over far enough the way I want it. Okay, so if I look here at my range, oh man. So if I look at the range here, we can see, here's our track to the VOR, and then we can see as we go out of this, and you'll be able to see it once I get closer, how it goes out and flies that procedure turn, okay? So that's what we're after, and that's what you'll see on your MFD, which again, will co-locate your airplane over that map, which is awesome, and in ForeFlight, she's so good. On ForeFlight, you also can see the aircraft overlaid there as well. Okay, so I'm going to just do this just real quick. Okay, there's that, just to unpause it. Okay, so now I've got that. Now I need to scoot this back over a little bit. Comm-wise, what do I need to do?
ATIS and tower.
Okay, so ATIS. Let's say I want to put ATIS down here on COM2. Give me the ATIS. What's the ATIS?
128.6.
Say it again.
128.6.
128.6. Make it active?
Yes.
Okay. 128.6 now is active on COM2. In order for me to monitor that, I'm going to click just the monitor side. You see how this COM says mic? If I click this, I'll be transmitting on COM2. But if I just stay here with COM2, I can leave this here. You can see how these are highlighted. So for instance, if I go here, I'm completely on COM2 where I transmit and receive on COM2. Here, I can go here, transmit and receive on COM1, so I can stay active here with approach or the tower. But let's say I want to listen to ATIS. This is how I do it. Okay? So we're going to set that up right there. I'll turn ATIS on in just a moment. So I've got that. Now, what do I need in my nav, my COM1 boxes up here?
Tower.
Okay, so let's say that right now I'm on approach. What approach frequency should I be listening to or talking to?
119.5.
Okay, why?
Because you're south.
Because I'm south. Good job. 119.5. Excellent. 119.5. Then they're going to hand me off to whom?
Tower.
The tower. 118.7. So I preload that in my standby. So all I have to do is that in 118. What was it? 7. Standby. Is so that all I have to do is do my little flip-flop switch, and I don't have to dial anything else in. I'm all set. 118.7?
Yeah.
Dang it. Okay. So there's tower. Right now active. I'm on approach from the south. I've got ATIS right here that I'm going to get ready to listen to. Okay? We good so far? What else could I have nav2 set on? What else could I have nav2 set on? Nav2, not com2.
Oh, nav2. Lanai, 117.7. Wait, no, the localizer.
Excellent, Gavin. Excellent. Do you hear what Gavin's saying?
But why?
Excellent question. So the question was, what else could I have nav2 set on? I could have it on another VOR. Do I need it to fly the approach or the mist? Not yet.
Oh yeah, no, you do need.
But let me ask you this. Normally what I would do is that if I'm going to do the mist, I'm going to have the mist up here in my backup. So I can flip this over. So what do I need to fly the mist?
You still need OGG, but
I still-
you also need Lanai.
I also need Lanai. So I'm going to set this in nav1 in the standby. What is it, Gavin? What is Lanai? 117? 117.7. So now, backup-wise, I have Lanai set in there as my backup, but for my primary, I've got OGG. What do you think I could use nav2 for? I've got it. I might as well use it. Here's how I think. What if the worst case thing happens? What if all of a sudden, between now and me getting to the field, there is some crazy weather thing that happens and now the visibility is reduced to the point that none of my non-precision approaches will get me to the airfield? What could I put in here just in case?
The localizer for runway 2.
The ILS for runway 2. To be prepared to fly the ILS for 2, just in case I can't fly a non-precision approach.
Never be too prepared.
Thank you, dear. So that's what I'm going to put down here on nav2. What's that frequency? 110.1? Is that it? Look on your sheets, guys. Look, you've got your plates. Yeah, for the localizer for ILS for 2. ILS 2, what is it? 110.1? Thank you.
Yeah.
110.1. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay? So that's what I'm going to have over here, ready to pump in there if I need it.
Wait, so why not have it active in nav2? Because you don't, that's your current active.
I could absolutely have it active there. There it is. Then I would just need to adjust my course, right? But then I'm ready to fly that approach. Good so far?
Yep.
Okay, so here we go. Got my nav stuff set up, got my comm stuff set up. I've got my direction. Kind of altitude. What should my altitude be here?
It should be 4,500.
Why do you say that, Gavin? Why 4,500?
That is the minimum for crossing the OGG.
Okay, is there any reason for me to be higher than that right now? Probably not, unless they want me higher. But otherwise, I'm going to set this for 4,500 feet. So I'm going to set my altitude here for 4,500. Whoops. 4,500 feet. What's my current altitude?
4,730.
Okay, so I'm a couple hundred feet high. So now I'm going to begin a small descent and capture 4,500 feet. I'm also going to turn the autopilot on here so that I can talk. So let's take a look one more time here at ForeFlight. So if we look at ForeFlight, here's another thing you can do in ForeFlight. I'm going to click flight plan. Let's see, hang on here. I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to put in here, I'm going to put in no, hang on. I'm going to put direct to, here's the D space PHOG, and it's going to give me a vector right there to that airfield. Now then, I'm going to go to flight plan. Now that I have the airport plugged in, I want to look at the edit, procedures, approach. Which one do I want? VOR runway 20, 20. That's what I want. Where's going to be my initial approach fix? OGG, correct? Okay, so that's what I want. OGG, add to route. Now, let's take a look at what that looks like. Huh, would you look at this? There's ATIS also, just in case. So now look at this. Takes me right to the VOR and then begins my outbound to do my procedure turn to come back in and land. Sweet story. Maine. You may. Quickly. Steph, do me a favor, and on the box in the upper left, do you see where it still says live? I'm having issues here because this keeps turning itself on and off. Do you see the upper box there that says video? Does it still say live? Great. Okay. All right. So guys, here we go. Let's take a look here at what we have. I want to do one thing here. I'm going to take this back over to kind of where I set this thing before. I'm going to zoom in here so that we can see. Well, that's too much. So that we can see not just the primary flight display and the multifunction display, but I'm going to turn this on, I'm going to turn that on, I'm going to turn that on. So now I have the autopilot on, it's on nav, and I have the altitude hold switch on here right now. So now, going back to F5, I'm going to unpause this thing, and I'm also going to get it right here where it's supposed to be. So now, we should show that we are on course. We are on course and we are flying toward the airfield. Right now we know that we're 14.6 nautical miles away from the center of the airfield. I think it's time for us to get ATIS, don't you?
I agree.
All right, let me turn this up so you guys can hear this. Okay, get ready to record. What did it say?
Information, Mike, winds are calm, visibility is greater than 20 nautical miles, and altimeter is 2991.
29091. What's my altimeter right now?
2992.
I need to fix that, don't I?
Read back all hold short instructions.
Okay, we read back all hold short instructions. Okay, VFR aircraft. What's VFR aircraft supposed to do? Supposed to do what? Do you remember? Was it something like, say, direction of flight? Something along those lines? Let's listen to it one more time.
It was at the very end.
It's different. Okay, so it changed.
Does it really? Does it really change that often?
It can.
So you do have
Depends
to
on when it
listen
is.
to it.
Let's just say that they change it at 7 minutes to the top of the hour, and it's 10 till. Well, you get 3 minutes into your flight, now it's a new ATIS. So you kind of need to know, when does that change? Because again, are you getting a stale ATIS, or are you getting a fresh ATIS?
Right, so when you are coming to do your approach, you should probably listen to it like more than
Especially if you know, here's the thing, what's the temperature in the dew point right now?
Temperature is 21 degrees Celsius and dew point is 14.
Okay, 14 or 4?
4.
Okay, so There's a big spread in the temperature and the dew point, correct? Do we expect visibility issues? No. Clouds are few at 14,900. Is that a ceiling? No. So we have no visibility issues with us at all right now, nor none in the next forecast in the next 15 minutes by the time that we put this airplane on the ground, right? So with that, we don't expect any major changes. However, if you've got that forecast now and you've kind of been watching it and you've seen the ceilings drop, you've seen the temperature and the dew point start getting closer and closer, and they're within 3 degrees now. Now we start thinking about what? Visibility issues. So now we may be thinking, okay, VOR 20 may not be my play. I may want to do this. Now again, they're showing here on the ATIS that ILS-2, that's in use. All right? We're suspending belief here just a little bit to kind of do this. Okay, I'm going to keep going here so we can actually fly. And I'm going to turn this off. So that's how you do this and still maintain your communications that you have on COM 1. So you're transmitting and receiving on COM 1, but you're just receiving on COM 2 by doing it the way I just showed you. Capiche?
Yep.
Now, ForeFlight. If we look at ForeFlight here right now, this is a little interesting. So you can see where our aircraft is sort of superimposed there. We know that right now we're not getting bearing information here on our simulation here on the J velocity that we're using here right now. Because it's just, unfortunately, it's just not a part of the programming. However, if we look here at our flight plan and our nav log here, take a look at ForeFlight with our nav log. We can see we should be able to see. Now, you can see that from where we are right now to the VOR, it's 10 nautical miles. And at our current speed, we're going to get there when?
5:03.
It's 6 minutes and 34 seconds is when we're going to get there. So now you can see that we're showing here a GPS 10 nautical miles, and that's about to change to about 9 nautical miles, okay? So the ForeFlight right now is more accurate than our GPS, our G1000 here is for what we have. But understand that in the G1000, when everything is all connected properly and everything is working correctly, the ForeFlight and the G1000 should be almost identical with this stuff, okay? Everybody good with that so far? Gavin, ask your question one more time.
Does ForeFlight only work when you have like service on your iPad?
The question is, does ForeFlight only work if you have service on your iPad? That is correct. You have to have a connection. So there is a GPS that receiver that is a part of your iPad, and in fact, the iPad will actually get not just the Navstar, which is the US GPS stuff, but it'll also get GLONASS, which is also the Russian one. So you can choose which one you want. Do you trust them darn Ruskies? Okay, leave it to me. I'm just going to stick with America. That's just me talking. Kylie, go. I'm gonna.
Related to that.
Okay, but I'm going to finish this question here. But is it related to this?
Yes.
Okay, go.
So if you leave your cellular on, does it like actually impact the instruments? No, right?
It's a great question. I want you to save this for when we're done. Okay, it's a great question. I'm going to go back to yours because it's kind of important. There is a separate module that you can use, and I actually have one called Stratus. Stratus is an external monitor that will pick up the GPS stuff, allow the GPS signal to be more refined than it will be on just your iPad, as well as offering ADS-B weather, and give you ADS-B in information with regard to traffic. It does not do ADS-B out. The module that I put on my airplane is ADS-B in and out compliant. So I get traffic, and I also send a signal to other people out there to say, okay, here I am, please don't hit me. So, and with that GPS module that I put in there, my ForeFlight on my iPad and my phone are all connected to that box in the airplane. So I don't need an external box. It's all Bluetooth inside my airplane. So myself and anybody else who has ForeFlight with them on a device in my airplane can get ForeFlight. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So here we are. Now back to the main. Yes.
What is bad else?
Bad elf, this is the bad elf right here. It's the GPS receiver thing. Is it coming in and out?
Yeah, it's just said bad elf is disconnected. So funny to develop bad elf failure.
All right. Yeah, it's just part of that program. I don't know why it's doing that today, but anyway. Okay, there it is. We're connected. Okay, what?
I think you should get a good elf.
Yeah, okay. So now, how far are we here from OGG?
5 nautical miles.
Okay.
4.9 nautical miles.
All right, so here we are. We are somewhere here about, somewhere just about 5 miles. Now, even if I didn't have any of this, how could I know that I'm about 5 miles out of the airport? Look at this. See this ring right here? Class Charlie airspace here on the main. That's 5 nautical miles. So as I look at this, here's 5. God. This is 5 miles here. This is 10 miles here, right?
That's what you can't go outside of when you're descending.
Thank you very much, Gavin. So we know that we have to stay within 10 nautical miles because that's kind of what it tells us. So I'm looking to make a turn here at some point. Now, what do we know about VORs when we overfly a VOR? What happens? We enter the cone of confusion. Thank you, Diego. We enter the cone of confusion. If we attempt, while we're over that VOR, to dial in our new radial, which is going to be what, by the way?
014.
Okay, so we're going to take 014 from the station, right? So 014. If I attempt to do that over the station, what's going to happen?
You're going to get really confused.
Okay, it's going to go everywhere. So what do I want to do?
You want to find a heading.
A heading, thank you very much. So with this, what heading should I fly, Gavin?
014.
So we're going to go, once we get over the VOR, we are going to go from nav mode to heading mode, right? Then there's something else that's going to happen on our way outbound. What's that? We're going to change altitude, right? Okay? We're going to descend to what? 1,900 feet? Okay, all right. Okay, so just know that that's what we're going to be doing here. So tell me when we are over the airfield. Not yet. Well, we're still not even doing the outbound. So can you see on the inset here on the main, can you see the inset that we're approaching that VOR? Okay. Do you see it there? All right. We can also see on ForeFlight that we're almost over the VOR. Back to main. So there it is. Here we come.
We're almost there. 0.6 miles, 0.5. 3, 2, 1.
So now I am going to go to heading mode. See when that switched? Then I went to heading mode. Then I also want to descend, correct? So I want to go down, I want to get down to 1,900 feet, so I'm going to preload 1,900 here. All right? So here we are now. Anybody here can't swim? Okay, just saying. All right. So here we are now, flying roughly that outbound on the heading. So now let's do this. Now let's adjust this course to where we want it.
194.
What is it?
194.
Well, or do we want 014?
Oh, right.
As of now, we want 0, 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Weird, that turbulence.
Yeah, you get a little turbulence out there. So here's 014, and I'm going to wait until I am a couple miles outside that VOR before I go back to the nav mode. Right now I'm in heading mode. I'm also descending. We'll look at that in just a second. Okay, so now let's go to nav mode. Now watch what happens here. So here we are in nav mode.
Oh boy.
What's happening?
He's turning to intercept the course. Radial.
Yeah.
Sorry, it kind of looked like we were plummeting into the ocean there for a second. Wouldn't that be so fun?
Want to go for a swim, guys?
And then you just,
I mean,
yeah.
we're in Hawaii.
Now then, how far away am I out?
10.
I'm almost about 5 miles out, and I can tell that because there's that 5-mile ring right there. So what's next? What do I do next?
You're about to turn on your
I'm about to turn on heading mode to what?
329.
329er. So I'm going to, now that I'm on nav mode, I'm going to change my heading here to 329er. There's 329 on the heading mode. I am also going to get ready here with my timer. Okay? Is there anything here that says that I can't start my procedure turn sooner than what's outside, than what's indicated here? The one thing that I have to do is what? Stay within 10 miles. So I'm going to start my procedure turn right now. So let's go to heading. Now I'm going to start this heading coming in this direction. And I am also going to start my timer. Why? I fly outbound for 1 minute. That is exactly right. So I'm flying outbound on this heading for 1 minute. I have begun my procedure turn. Go to ForeFlight. See how the procedure turn kind of matches what ForeFlight has? Go to main. See how the main actually shows the GPS quite a bit further out, and it actually breaks the new current chart regulation because it goes outside 10 nautical miles. So that one on the main would be incorrect. Back to ForeFlight. And so this ForeFlight is going to be pretty good. Now, here's a problem that we have. Have you noticed here what's happened to the timer? Have you noticed that on the timer on the main here, the timer on the main has all of a sudden added a minute? It's an error in the code. So now I'm going to start a turn. So there I am, 1 minute, and I'm starting a turn to what heading, Gavin?
149.
What? 149er. Now, here's another thing. What rate should I be turning in instrument conditions? Standard rate turn. I'm going to pause this. Look on the main. Do you see my turn vector right here? My turn vector should be at this tick mark right here. That is a standard rate turn. This tick mark is a half standard rate turn. Standard rate at this tick mark will turn me 3 degrees per second, meaning a 180-degree turn is going to take me how long? 1 minute. It'll take me 1 minute to make a 180-degree turn, 2 minutes to make a full 360-degree turn, right? This is way faster, and it's turning far too quickly than normal, and I just wanted to point that out. Okay, back to ForeFlight. And we can see what's happening here on ForeFlight, that we're turning back around, and we're going to pick up this leg. Now, you'll notice it's turning inside that turn, and now we're losing that guidance on ForeFlight. So on this, I am going to have to manually pick that leg up. Okay? Now then, take a look at main, at the main, and look at your CDI. Notice where the arrow is. Notice where it's pointing. It's pointing, the arrow on the outside of the HSI is pointing to what?
To the radial, it's following the radial
Okay, it's pointing to it's pointing to that station, and your CDI is guiding you into the radial. So right now, what I will probably do is change this to what? What should my inbound course be? 194. So let's change that. It's not that we have to, because I could still use that the way it's set up, but let's do it the correct way. To 194. Okay, now, from where that airplane is positioned right now, do you see where your CDI is located? You are flying inbound to intercept that radial on the way in, correct? Okay, let's see what happens. Now, I have switched here. I've got to go to nav. And that's going to intercept my inbound course, Lord willing. I'm going to stop my timer now. And I'd reset it and I'd use it if I thought it'd work, but it doesn't seem to be working. Let's go to ForeFlight. We can see us picking this up. We're at 1,900 feet-ish. When do I begin my descent? Okay. Coming back in on the radial. Guys, I don't know why it's doing this. Okay, so we're on the main. So here we are. Notice how we're coming into our course here now. Okay? So now, what do I need to descend to? So I can't do that on this. I'm on my nav. So I'm going to go down to, if I can't do 420, I'm going to do what? 500. Okay, so there we are. We're on nav. We have the altitude loaded. We're on our descent. Okay? This is looking good. I'm going to reduce some power because I don't want to speed up on the way out here. I get within 5 nautical miles here, and then I'm going to do my pre-go-around checklist. So here we are, inbound. Okay, so we can see this. How are we looking? Okay, so here we are. And at 500 feet, we're going to take a peek. Because we're going to pretend that we can't see. So we're 5 miles out. I've got 700 feet to go to descend to 500. Gas is on the fullest, undercarriage is down and welded. Mixture set for field elevation. Power is good. Prop don't have one. And switches, all lights coming on. Fuel pumps coming on. Seat belt secured. Seats are secured. Pre-landing checklist is complete. First notch of flaps coming in. Going to begin slowing down here. Got 400 feet to go. Here's what it would look like. Okay. Right here, I'm going to reduce a little power here. And with this, MDA on this approach is what? Minimum descent altitude for this localizer approach is what? Or the VOR approach is what? Okay, 420. We're going to take a peek at 500 feet. That's my medium, my minimums. Mediums, Lord. Okay, here it comes. Let's take a peek. All right, there we go. That just dropped like an ever-loving rock, and that was not the airplane, guys. That was the That was this. Now, which runway do I want? The one I'm lined up with here? Okay, let's just try that. Am I on glide slope? How do you know? Okay, am I a little high now? All right, so I'm going to reduce a little power. Going to line this bad boy up. All right, so now I'm a little high. I'll bet I can fix that. I was going to show you where the VOR is. Do you see right over here in the palm trees? Now, that's where it is in the simulation. Is that where it is in real life? No. Okay. Airspeed is 72. Last notch flaps. Light's about to change. Light's about to change. Adding just a little power here. I'm a little bit low. Do I have the runway made? All right, so here we go. Now then, power's all the way out. I'm just bleeding off that last little bit of energy. Nose high, mains touch first. Nice and tasty. Okay? Now, we're still on the main? Okay, we're on the main. Okay, guys. Tell me which would be a simpler approach? The ILS that we did yesterday or this VOR that we did today? Okay? Why? Oh, first of all, Steph Wojcik on the buttons. Well done. Good job, Steph.
You can come from any direction over here. There's a lot less
Yeah.
structure
Yeah,
involved.
correct.
And
Yeah.
there's less altitude requirements that you have to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just more flexibility.
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree with all that. The ILS is more, yeah, it's a little bit more rigid, you know, in the requirements. There's a little more to it. However, all things being equal, which approach would you have more confidence in getting to land an airplane in low visual meteorologic conditions? The precision approach. A precision approach will allow you the opportunity to get lower and give you a greater opportunity to land the airplane. A non-precision approach won't do that. Now, let's take a peek here at this. What time do I have you guys today until? 9:40. Okay, great. No assembly, no shortcuts, no walkout, no. Okay, nothing. Okay, we're all good. We got school today. Lovely. Now then.
Mr. Arp, do you want me to ask the question?
Oh yes, please go ahead.
Right now.
Go ahead. Ask your question.
So if you leave the cellular on your phone, does it have an actual impact on the instruments, or does it or why did they say that when you're?
Here's Kylie's question. Is if you leave your cellular device on, does it truly have an impact on instruments?
Because Mr. Kraft doesn't have us turn it off.
And here's the thing. When's the last time that with those cell phones on, that you've had your instruments just all of a sudden they're not there anymore?
When's the last time everyone on the airplane has even turned their phone off?
That's so true.
Like no one ever does it. No one understands. They don't
I do
care.
it 'cause I'm scared that I'm going to crash the plane.
Here is, Story, come here. I'm going to have Story help me here for just something here, right here. Story, I want you to come over here on this side, and I want you to hold these up for me, just gently, and I'm going to slide this back kind of where it's supposed to go. I just don't want to run over anything. Thank you, hun, for doing that. Okay, thank you. Story Balco, ladies and gentlemen, Story Balco. Well done. Well done. Okay, now, so the question was about, does cell phones really cause issues with instruments? Well, here's the deal. There is, I'm going to go further this way. Hang on. Here we go. So there we go. There we go with that. There's this. Sorry guys, I'm just looking to get this recentered here with the camera. It's all about the audience of the mind. So the question was about, do cell phones really affect the instruments on an airplane? What do you think?
No.
Yes.
No,
I mean,
yes,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
yes, yes, no,
Definitely
yes,
yes.
no.
There was a Mythbusters
Maybe
episode that actually
if
did
there's
test it.
enough.
It depends. And
I'm not
it does.
sure.
If you're a smaller.
A little bit, yeah.
Why would they make us turn them off?
Why do you think, okay, here's the question, is to say they've done the Mythbusters thing on this, they've done all of this, they've done everything else.
Does it mess up the
This is not about
Is
the
it
FAA.
experience? Is it like when people are sitting there on their phone right next to you, like talking?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh,
That's what I was
is it like a
Because, like,
safety thing? So if somebody's like.
Okay, it's not about the FAA.
Okay. Wait,
It's
I
about-
wanna get-
It's about the FCC. What is the FCC? It's about being able to be charged for the use of your cell phone.
Oh, so it's like a tax thing.
It's about money. It's not about avionics.
Who gets charged?
So for instance, let's say that
Oh,
you're
they want
flying.
you to-
Like
L-
Wi-Fi.
There you go. And so for forever, it was all about shut off all of these devices. And then all of a sudden, it's okay. Oh my gosh, have they changed all of the instrumentation in the airplane? No. It's now about the airlines and their ability to get paid.
Oh,
So we've used cell phones forever in small aircraft that in some cases have far more electrons bouncing around in there than some of the other commercial aircraft have had and have never had a problem. No interference whatsoever. But I'm also going to stop short to say that it would never happen, because in some cases it could. And here's one thing. So you remember what I was saying earlier to Gavin about ForeFlight and the Stratus. So imagine me being on a Southwest flight and I have my Stratus hooked up there in the back and I'm following along, looking at my I'm not being judgy, but I'm just, okay, all right, so there it is. So imagine me sitting back there in the exit row with my Stratus suction cupped to that window, watching ForeFlight. I have asked pilots, hey guys, listen, I fly, I've got ForeFlight, I've got Stratus, would you mind if I plug this in? Oh no, where are you sitting? I want to come see it. So we've had that. But now think about this. What did I say about the ADS-B component to the Stratus?
Oh, it transmits as well as.
So, well, not on the Stratus. On the Stratus, you get incoming but not outgoing. But what would be the potential if I actually were broadcasting out?
They would cancel out the.
That airline would look like it's on top of another airline, of another airplane. And it would be a big deal. So they tell you now on the airplanes that you can actually use the GPS receiver in here. You can't have it on for takeoff or landing, but you can use it kind of in flight. So I could use that, but I kind of thought, you know, if this for whatever reason showed another conflicting signal that the guys and the women up front are looking at and saying, is there an airplane on us? Do we have an airplane on us? So yeah, that could be kind of a thing from a traffic standpoint. Okay? All right. Now, picking this up, finishing up chapter 23. Remember I told you the performance categories that you see down in the minimums box of this. Take a look at table 23.1. Table 23.1.
I have it.
Okay, go. Memorize this. Test questions. Know how they get this information. This is an indicated airspeed, and it has to do with 1.3 of stall. Okay? 1.3 of stall in the landing configuration.
Yes.
This is where they establish the performance categories. I'm sorry? 23.1, table 23.1, page 526. Okay? Test question. RVR, what does that stand for? Runway visual range. Know what that is? What is a transmissometer? Besides just being something really fun to say.
Airplane instrument. No.
It's a way to kind of detect horizontal view in statute miles.
Okay.
Okay? So look at that. Remember we talk about timing on the mist. Okay? So, let me ask you a question. Here you are flying an ILS approach. You have started now from your final approach fix, and you are headed down the hypotenuse, happy as a clam. You lose your glide slope. What do you do?
500 feet per minute.
You're on the ILS approach, headed down from the final approach fix.
Final approach,
You
you should be at the cloud, correct?
No, you're at the final approach fix. That can be within 10 nautical miles of the airport. So you're on your final approach fix. You're heading downhill. You've not reached your DA or your DH.
Go around.
Okay? You lose your glide slope. One option is go around. Is there another? Take a look at the ILS or localizer for runway 2 at Kahului. Is there another option if you lost your glide slope, headed down the hypotenuse on an ILS or localizer approach?
Yeah. Increase visibility to 3/4 of the statute mile, and localizer category CP visibility to 1 3/8 of a mile.
Okay. Your minimums will change now because now you've gone from an ILS, a precision approach, to an LOC, which is a non-precision approach. So look down at your minimums box in the lower left corner. But the only way you could do this is if you started your timer, at your final approach fix, and you were flying the correct ground speed for timing. If you didn't, you're going around. Here's what I'm saying. If you did all of that and you started that timer at the final approach fix and you were on the correct ground speed, headed down the hypotenuse, and you lost your glide slope, you could continue to a particular time to a particular altitude. At this, you match and you can see if it's 3 degrees and you know what your ground speed is going to be. You remember that chart that you were looking at for your takeoffs and your landings? And you can look at this and to say, okay, here's what my feet per minute should be. Set your VSI for that, and as long as you don't bust that altitude at that time, you should be over your MDA, which is your minimum descent altitude for a localizer approach. You should be able to do that. Now understand, that's hypothetical. But if there is a whisper of a doubt as to that timing, or did I set it up right, or am I on that correct ground speed, a lot of things have to go really, really right for that, you go missed. You go missed. You come back and you do the localizer approach when you can set up for the localizer approach. Okay? Understand it's possible, but not very probable. Okay?
Bueno.
Brief yourself on NDB approaches. Understand there still may be a question on an NDB approach, but I doubt it. And the reason I say that is because ADF has gone the way of the dodo bird. And the only way that you can do an NDB approach is with an ADF. All of these right here, guys, these yellow boxes as you review these, all of these things, solid gold. All of these are solid gold. This is what a lot of your quiz on Friday is going to look like. Identifying these various elements of these approaches. Right now is when you're going to get to be very, very good friends with your figures and legends for the instrument side of this quiz on Friday. Quiz on Friday, chapter 23. All of this stuff here, guys, like I say, how to break down these approaches. Guys, I don't think that there's anything we have missed. Thank you so much. That was good. You know what? I didn't even get it that I made it funny until you laughed. It's just like, oh, bonus. Okay.
Just not
So
for that.
this will all be on Prepware, right? Not on paper. Yes.
Yes, all on prepware. All on prepware. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to look at these instrument approaches. Now, in the margin right here on page, I don't know, what page is this? 531. 531, general comments on instrument approaches. Given the choice, a precision approach is preferred over a non-precision approach. However, the best approach may be the one that allows a straight-in approach into the wind. In heavy iron, it's not, it's still a factor, but perhaps not as big a factor as it is in light aircraft, that wind component. And let me tell you why. You can't think about just the wind on your landing. Think about, here is your initial approach fix, here's your final approach fix, here you are sliding down the hypotenuse, trying to hold that bad boy on the localizer, on the course, on your CDI, and maintaining your glide slope. If the wind does not favor that runway for that approach. And also understand this, just because of the fact that the wind on the ground may favor that runway to land, you can still have cats and dogs between that decision height altitude, the decision altitude, or the MDA, and back to that final approach fix. Winds could be everywhere. You could have a tailwind to begin that first part of that approach that then becomes a headwind to land.
Right.
You could get anything. This, again, these general comments on instrument approaches, this is very good stuff to have read. One thing to, and this goes back to this, remember that on an ILS approach, any kind of a precision approach where you have vertical guidance and horizontal guidance, it's always a good idea to get your horizontal guidance established first before you fly into that angle to intercept your glide slope. This way, you've got this set up. I'm kind of ready for the wind here. I've got this pretty much dialed in. Now you can get your glide slope, and it's a lot easier. If you try to do both at the same time, that can be a challenge. So get your localizer set up as early as you can, get stable on that, intercept the glide slope, and it's much easier to be able to fly that down to your DH or your DA. Okay? There's that. Airspeed is also very good. It's why we get everything configured. It's why we configure our aircraft for that descent by the time that our glide slope is a half dot above our horizon line. So you see the horizon line and you've got two little bubbles up here. When that glide slope starts coming down here, when I am below that last bubble and before I get to the horizon line, I want my aircraft ready to come down the slot. I've done my pre-landing checklist. I'm ready to go, got my power set, got everything good. First notch of flaps comes in. Here we go. Approach lights. Looking to see here what we have. Oh, come on. What time is it? Almost time to go.
We have 4 minutes to go.
Visual illusions on approach. These are exactly the same thing as they were in the VFR stuff. Check them out. This is exactly what we did way back in the day. Exactly the same. You've done this. Oh, by the way, you're done with the chapter. All right.
Quiz on Friday?
Quiz Friday. Now, what are we studying here?
Big red.
Instrument approaches, chapter 23. Only the information that pertains to chapter 23. Okay? All right. Guys, have a fabulous day. It, of course, is my pleasure.